Oh, well, hello there, everyone. It's so nice to have hijacked the Parsha podcast for this week. I think Rabbi Schwartz and Rabbi Sorokin are elsewhere, and it's
Our
great to be here.
turn.
It's our turn, right? We love to jump in when we can, so it's always nice to be here with you, Emily, to discuss this week's
Absolutely.
Parasha, which is Vayikra, new
Sure
book of the
is.
Torah. We are into like the greatest time of the year. After Pesach, of course, because then we'll be less anxious about things. But this book of the Torah is my favorite. It's no secret. How is it for you?
It's so funny because I would venture a guess that it's not everybody's favorite
It's,
book,
I think, very
but
challenging
it's
for many
clear that it
people.
is yours. I mean, I generally prefer Genesis and Exodus. Those are
Narrative-based.
narrative-based, give the family tree. But here we are in the desert, and this is really a book where it teaches how the Israelites became a people.
I'm so glad you mentioned
Yeah.
that. Yeah, the desert is referred to by our sages as Makom Ta'ara, a place of purification for us. And it's true. We are learning how to be a people, right? Because we're still sort of this ragtag bunch of escaped slaves that have been in Egypt for so long. And we've done things the Egyptian way for so long. And now we've received the Torah, we've received the Ten Commandments, we've built the Mishkan. It's time for us to learn. So we know how to sort of be a political entity. We know sort of how that's going to work for us, at least for the time being. And now we need to sort of know how to be a religious entity, right? We've been in Egypt, a land of idolatry, for such a long time. And obviously we had that little incident with the golden calf.
Whoops.
And so God, I think, really realizes that, there needs to be some sort of, ritual space and rituals to sort of
Right.
help in that area.
So we built the Mishkan, and now comes, one of the things that is going to happen in the Mishkan, the sacrifice. And it's interesting how tied it is to, consequences. You're
Sure.
learning how to become people, how to become responsible for their own behaviors and responsible for each other.
Yeah.
And so there is a lot of detail in this Parsha about what is sacrificed and how it's sacrificed. And then, of course, we have the smell of the smoked meats and the eating of the smoked meats, which is not a bad thing.
No, I mean, I'm a person who loves barbecue, and if God
Yeah.
loves barbecue too, all the better.
I agree.
But it's interesting, you brought up the word sacrifice, right? So the Hebrew word for sacrifice is korban,
Yep.
right? And I think that the word we use, sacrifice, today comes from the Greek translation of the Torah. And korban in Hebrew comes from the shoresh kuf resh bet, which means karov, to become close to. Right? A sacrifice is an interesting sort of concept in our Western minds.
Right, because many people think of it as you're giving up something. But
Right.
if you're thinking about it in terms of karov, it's what you give to become closer
Exactly
to God.
Right. And yeah, sometimes it does mean giving away something of yourself. In ancient times, animals were a significant thing for a lot of people in our
It's what they
agrarian society.
had.
It's what they had. And to offer up an animal to God is a huge, significant thing to do. And Vayikra categorizes different types of offerings for different types of sins. But I think, when you focus only on the sin, we do ourselves a disservice, because I think the real desire is, the idea of tshuva, right? The idea of repentance and being accountable.
Well, and I think some don't realize that it's not just around the high holidays that we speak about tshuva, that we're
Right.
really doing this all year long.
Every day, right? We are flawed human beings. We make mistakes. And, I think it says something that when we make mistakes, it's not just involving ourselves and maybe another person, but also involving God in that as well. And trying to really make something mundane and regular holy.
Yeah,
Right?
absolutely.
And so even our mistakes can become holy by offering, these sacrifices and trying to become close to or bring God into our own space, into the space of the Mishkan, but also into our own presence, is, I think, huge.
Right. And they're just receiving the written 10 commandments and understanding certain ways to behave, not just towards other people, but also towards God.
Yeah.
With the different types of commandments that they're getting.
Yeah.
they had a lot of restrictions living in Egypt, but they weren't the same type. It wasn't about how they treated each other and how they treated their relationship with God. It was more about how they performed as a slave.
Right, right. And being able to actually offer and worship freely was also new for our people,
Right.
and for us, and to be able to worship God in the way God desired is a form of liberation. Even though you think of them as sort of these restrictive laws, but it is a form of liberation.
Absolutely. I mean, that's an interesting conversation that I have with people, that I have with children.
Sure.
It's not you have to observe Shabbat and you have to like refrain from work. It's you get this freedom to have a day free of work.
Right. And for our people who have been mistreated by so many people over so many centuries and millennia because of our religion, the fact that we are able to observe these mitzvot and observe these commandments, it is because we get to, and it's really a beautiful gift, and it's something that we really should try very hard not to take for granted, because we are fortunate in this way, because not everybody has that, and other places it can be very oppressive. But to be able to, Shabbat is a good example to have that one day and to sort of take a step out of the world and, create your own sort of Shabbat bubble and turn off all your electronic devices, come to
Oh,
shul, see your friends, spend some time talking with God, however that might manifest itself, because prayer is now sort of the replacement for sacrificial system.
yeah,
Uh,
sorry, Ben.
Temporary replacement for the sacrificial system, we'll say, because after the destruction of the temple, right, our sages we're like, we need to figure something out, otherwise Judaism will
Right.
disappear. So we're lucky that we have the Torah, right? The Torah um, allows us to participate in this, prayer experience, and being able to talk to God in this way, albeit a temporary one, is super important to maintaining our relationship with God. And me, I love to pray. I really enjoy it. I get a lot out of
Yeah,
it.
same.
Um, and I hope that people, if they're listening or if you're thinking about it, even taking just a couple minutes a day to say a bracha, say a blessing over a piece of food or a drink or a snack or whatever it is, to do what you can do to make the space you are in holier than it was. And I think that's really like what Vayikra is all about.
Yeah. Elevating,
Yes,
elevating things to the
elevating
next
things to the next
level.
spiritual plane. For sure. It's hard too, because the world around us is, full of temptations and full of ways to suck us in to procrastination, stuck in our phones or on our screens, and taking a step back to say, I'm about to eat this apple, and acknowledge that God is the creator of the apple. We say a quick bracha, elevate something that I was going to do anyway. I was going to eat the apple,
Right.
but now I've blessed it. I've made it holy, and I've brought holiness into my body by thinking about the things I eat. Right, kashrut, the laws of kashrut also comes from Vayikra, from the Book of Vayikra. It's all about how we can separate ourselves from other people, but also separate mundane and holy and create holiness. And that, I think, is really the core.
So, Ben, I know you have a lot of really good sources that you send people to when they're looking for that kind of information, because not everybody might know every different blessing there is. Is there a good source that you recommend if somebody is looking for those blessings a little bit beyond Hamotzi?
Yeah, so I don't love to promote the OU, but they have a great blessing page. Exploring Judaism, the digital home
Yep.
for conservative Judaism, is a great place to go if you're looking for extra resources. Safaria, our friends at Safaria, have a wonderful digital library of thousands of Jewish sources that go even deeper into just a regular basic bracha, but also so many other. I mean, there's blessings for everything, for almost everything, and I think that says something about our tradition and the way we sort of see the world. Trying to really clean those lenses and acknowledge God as creator, and thinking about some of those blessings is a great way, and saying them is a great way to bring holiness into our lives. So I think those are some good sources that I would send people to.
Fantastic. And those are just right there on your phone, your computer. Everything's at your
It is
fingertips.
now at your fingertips. But I
Yeah.
also do encourage you to put that phone away sometimes, right?
I
Turn it off.
agree. I love putting it
Spend some
away.
time outside. Spend some time, with your blessings, with your prayers. There's a great idea from the Hasidic tradition. It's called hitbodedut, which means to really sort of be alone. Now, Judaism generally loves prayer in a community, and that's super important. But
Yeah.
sometimes you need to take a step back and you need to have that private conversation with God, and that's what hitbodedut is all about. Go find a beautiful place in nature, spend some time, and just literally talk to God and use the language of your heart. You don't need a siddur. You don't need anything else with you. It's you. It's your thoughts. It's the language of your heart. You have that conversation with God. And I know when I do hitbodedut, which I try and do a couple times a year, it's really like a meaningful experience for me. Because one, I love to be outside, but also God as creator is I think my favorite manifestation of God is as creator of the universe. So being outside and being in nature and being in the world that God created is very powerful for me. So I encourage hitbodedut.
That does make sense for you, as I know you do like nature, but that's a great suggestion for many people that might not be ready to use the words of the Siddur, but do want to feel connected. But you did make a really good point that many of the prayers are in the plural, so they are meant to be said within a group. And that also kind of brings us back to the Parsha and why they're doing the sacrifice together.
All together.
Yeah.
Right? It's a beautiful thing. The community worships, a community that worships together stays together.
Yes.
But also, a community that we had to do these things together because it also makes us accountable to one another. Everybody's sort of, all Jews, Kol Yisrael Aravim Ze Bazeh, right? We're all responsible for each other. So I'm getting the signal here. Got to wrap it up. But thank you so much for letting us take over and have this Parsha conversation.
Love crashing the podcast.
Love it. It's one of my favorite things. Shabbat Shalom, folks.
Shabbat Shalom.
See you in Shul.